I need you to come with me in a little trip of faith. It's the end of October. The Cubs and the Yankees are in the World Series. It's Game 7, bottom of the ninth. Cubs are down by 1, 2 out. Man on first, Rizzo comes up to bat. The Yankees have their dastardly ace closer in. Boo. Rizzo has had a horrid game. Oh, he's committed a couple errors. He actually committed an error to let in the go-ahead run. He's 0 for 4. Just nothing. First pitch comes, he swings, and he misses it by a foot. He steps out of the batter's box and cleans his cleats off and tightens his gloves and walks back in. Second pitch, same thing. He's swinging like he's in Little League. He doesn't know what pitch is coming. He's guessing wrong. He's terrible. The whole Wrigley Field is quiet. And here's the windup. And here's the pitch. And there is a loud crack of the bat. It doesn't just go over the right field fence. It goes out of the park. And what happens at Wrigley? What happens at Wrigley? Yeah! Come on! Yay! Woo!
A miracle!
A miracle! Would that be rejoicing? Would that be rejoicing? Oh yeah. Except for my father-in-law, who is a Yankees fan. I don't understand why. So, do you actually know we're doing the 50 Commands of Christ, that He actually commands us to rejoice? However, you know, the pandemonium that would take place at Wrigley in winning the World Series, it's only been 100 and some years. That's not the rejoicing that he's talking about. Think of it. Whenever you hear the word rejoice, what's the first thing that comes into your mind? Just, whoa, yay! That's not actually, when you read the word rejoice in the scripture, that's not what it's meaning. I couldn't believe it. I thought rejoice meant rejoice, get happy, jump up and down, scream and shout, yay! It actually, 9 out of 10 times when you read it in the scripture, it means to be calmly happy. What? That's not my definition of rejoice. What I'm thinking when I hear rejoice is let it go, let it hang out. Be calmly happy. Of course, you do know there are 14 different words that are translated into the word joy in the scripture. And I said this Monday. The reason God did that is because I need a whole bunch of ways to express joy. So I needed 14 different words just to say one thing. Be joyful. Rejoice. Calmly happy. And in the scripture where we see Jesus commanding us to rejoice, that is this definition. And if you're taking notes, it's Matthew 5, 11, and 12. And once you see the connotation of this, you're going to understand why it is calmly happy. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice! Huh? Yeah, he does. He says, rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. Wait a minute. Insult you, persecute you, falsely say all kinds of evil about you, rejoice! Be calmly happy. All right? How many of us respond that way? No. It doesn't make sense again. Do you notice that there's a whole lot of the Bible that doesn't make sense? But it's a command. Rejoice. But there's got to be a little bit more to that, isn't there? Well, of course there is. There's also the very same word that is translated rejoice has two more meanings that I kind of really like. And one of them is glory. Glory. But it still doesn't fit in. They insult you. Glory. No. And then the other one is boast. Like when you're rubbing it in somebody's face. When they insult you. Wait, no, that doesn't fit. Oh, yes it does. Let's take a look at somebody who had a whole lot of experience with this. Let's look at Paul. And I'm going to go to Philippians 2, 14 through 18. And Paul had some experience in things. He starts out and he says, do everything without complaining or arguing, so that you may become blameless and pure, children of God, without fault in a crooked and depraved generation, in which you shine like stars in the universe as you hold out the word of life, in order that I may, and if you have the NIV, it says boast, that I may boast on the day of Christ, that I did not run or labor for nothing. But even if I am being poured out like a drink offering on the sacrifice and service coming from your faith, I am glad and rejoice with you. So you too should be glad and rejoice with me, in order that I may boast, that I may rejoice on the day. Even, and here's the funny thing, Paul is writing this from prison, even if I am being poured out as a sacrifice. Paul says, here I am, my life is being poured out as a sacrifice. But I'm going to rejoice and I'm going to boast in it, that the things that I have done that are just pouring my life out to you, I'm going to rejoice in them. I'm going to boast in them. I'm going to kind of vaunt them in front of the enemy. What kind of things did Paul actually run into? Just to get a little, glimpse of what he went through when he's saying, I'm being poured out. Right over here. Oh, and by the way, he was also in prison when he wrote Colossians, and he uses the word rejoice and joy in it repeatedly. He's in prison, and he's saying joy, rejoice. But let's take a look at 2 Corinthians. (11:24). Good old Paul. Here we go. I have worked much harder, been in prison more frequently, been flogged more severely, and been exposed to death again and again. 5 times I received from the Jews the 40 lashes minus 1. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. 3 times I was shipwrecked. I spent a night and a day in the open sea. I have been constantly on the move. I have been in danger from rivers, in danger from bandits, in danger from my own countrymen, in danger from the Gentiles, in danger in the city, in danger in the country, in danger at sea, and in danger from false brothers. I have labored and toiled and often gone without sleep. I have known hunger and thirst and have often gone without food. I have been cold and naked. Besides everything else, I face daily the pressure of my own concern for the churches. Who is weak and I do not feel weak? Who is led into sin and I do not inwardly burn? So if I must boast, again, same word translated rejoice, I will boast of the things that show my weakness. Well, wait a minute. I'm going to rejoice. I'm going to be calmly happy about the things that show my weakness. I don't know about any of you, but when I look at my weaknesses, they kind of get me upset. You know, I'm like, oh man, I screwed up on that again. Lord, why? Gary, why don't you boast about that? Lord, time out. No. No, I'm upset about that. I mean, even when Paul, he says, who is led into sin and I don't inwardly burn? Well, what about you being led into sin? Don't you inwardly burn? And don't you get upset? And don't you say, oh, come on, I'm better than that. The Lord loves me. His Spirit lives in me. I have favor. I have power. And I messed up. Yeah. Rejoice. What? I'm telling you to rejoice. And those things that show your weakness are the very things that I'm going to be able to display my greatest strength. But, Lord, I have 2 fake knees. I can't run and jump anymore. Rejoice. Wait a minute. I'm afraid to do things because of what condition my knees are in. It's titanium and plastic. Rejoice. No, don't you understand? They're weak. They're not the same. I was a high jumper. I ran the quarter mile. I pitched in baseball. I played basketball. I could dunk a basketball. Now I can't jump. Rejoice! Help me. Help me, Lord. I'm weak. Physically. Rejoice. I mess up spiritually. Rejoice. Be calmly happy. Because for this very reason, I died. For this very reason, I rose from the dead. For this very reason, I left and sent you the Holy Spirit. You're going to have no confidence in the flesh. You're going to have no confidence in your intellect. You're actually going to have no confidence in your own spirituality. Because my boasting and my rejoicing is actually going to come in the things that show my weakness. I'm going to sit back and be calmly happy. Because every place I am weak, I'm going to have an eye of faith that's going to look and say, I have favor, and my God is going to be shown strong in that area. Hallelujah. You know, and we can just say, well, this was Paul. He was special. No, it wasn't just Paul. Let's go to Acts 5:41. The Pharisees, teachers of the law, the Sanhedrin, wasn't real happy when the apostles started teaching about Jesus. So they would lock them up, and they would do this and that and the other thing. So, after one of these episodes, which this is the one where God always just set them free. Earlier on, look, the men you put in jail are standing in the temple courts preaching. How'd that happen? So they take them before him again, and that's when they say, hey, we're going to preach. We're going to obey God. The apostles left the Sanhedrin rejoicing. Why are they calmly happy now? Because they had been counted worthy of suffering disgrace for the name. How many people are going to go, hey, I'm suffering disgrace? Rejoice! No, we want the head seat at the table. We want the recognition for a job well done. We want good food, comfortable bed. Rejoice. Rejoice because they've been counted worthy to suffer. A little bit different than nowadays. If a Christian gets called to the carpet and gets raked over the coals now, we need to cast out that demon. Oh, there's sin in their life. Oh, they're believing the wrong thing. They got some bad doctrine there. That's what's happening to them. And look, after all that idiot's rejoicing. Now we know there's something wrong with him. So here's the apostles doing the very same thing. They're rejoicing because they were allowed to suffer. And we will go again to my favorite book of the Bible, James. I heard a ha back there. Like I said, James is not right in the head. Consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds. Oh man, I'm under the gun now. I got this thing going on now. I'm going to rejoice. You know, you're a little loony. But as John Wimber said, I'm a fool for Christ. Whose fool are you? Consider it pure joy when you face trials of many kinds. Not just one kind, many kinds. I'm having trouble at work. Rejoice. I'm having trouble with my kids. Rejoice. I'm having trouble with my wife. Rejoice. I don't have trouble with my wife very often. No. She has trouble with me. There is something powerful that takes place when we rejoice. There is a transaction that takes place between us and our Father when we rejoice. No matter what the circumstances are, when we rejoice, He pours strength into us. The joy of the Lord is my strength. There have been times I haven't been strong. There have been times I had no joy. There have been times I did not want to rejoice. And the funny thing is, when the Lord comes down and gets a hold of you and says, I see what you're facing. I have overcome the world. Would you look at that thing and just be calmly happy? No, Lord, I'm scared to death. No. Get your eyes off of that thing. I'm not saying ignore it. Don't focus on it. And understand that, consider it all joy when you face these trials. Because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance. Perseverance must finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. Rejoice. Havila had a testimony last week. And I have to admit, it made me swell up with pride. She's my youngest daughter. She had one heck of a week. Wrecked her car, cat declawed, paws wouldn't heal, lost her checkbook. All in 1 week. And she decided, you know what? I'm going to pray in the Spirit over my cat. Let's see what happens. You know what? I think I'll look to God here. And she wouldn't have said she was rejoicing, but that's exactly what you were doing, kiddo. And what was her testimony? I had this, and this, and this happen, and I was in a good mood all week. When we rejoice in the face of trials, tribulations, persecutions, we actually change the atmosphere. We don't have to change the circumstances in order to rejoice. We don't have to change the circumstances to totally influence and change the atmosphere that's around us. We can actually stand and say, yeah, I'm getting hit there because I'm weak. So I'm going to boast in that weakness. I'm going to rejoice. And I'm going to have faith to see the salvation of my God. Rejoice. It's not just hilarity like I would always have thought. It is just being calmly happy in the face of the adversary. And we will drive the adversary nuts. Hey, I've got you now, Gare. You screwed up there, didn't you? And I'll look at him and I'm going to go, yeah, I'm going to rejoice. Gary, that guy said that about you, and it wasn't true. What do you think about that? Yeah, I'm going to rejoice. You know, I'm becoming more bold at work, if that's possible. But I have witnessed to most of everybody there that I have contact with. But I am now beginning to salt the conversations differently. I am beginning to identify with Jesus when we talk about anything that's going on. And it's interesting to see the responses I'm getting. Some of the responses are, oh yeah, that's Gary, he's crazy. Some of the responses are, really? Some of the responses are, really? Because here's something. We think we're being persecuted when we get made fun of for being a Christian. No. Persecution is being thrown in jail Persecution is going through what Paul did. I haven't been lashed. I haven't been beat with rods. But I think it's horrible when people make fun of me. So I'm turning that. And I'm going to go, he made fun of me. I'm going to rejoice. He said something bad about me. I'm going to rejoice. I'm going to be calmly happy in the very face of what our natural minds would say, oh, that's terrible. So I'm going to challenge you guys this week. There's not one of us that isn't going to face a trial. If a preacher of the gospel is truthful, they don't go on TV and say, come and give your life to Jesus and everything will be wonderful. All them problems you have will go away. They'll disappear. No. If the preacher of the gospel is honest and truthful, come on down, give your life to Jesus. I can promise you a few things. Trial, tribulation, persecution, and death. Come on down and give it a try. But that is what we are promised. They persecuted the prophets. How much more so now will they persecute you because of me? And Jesus said, in the midst of that, rejoice. That I was considered worthy of suffering for the name. So as you walk through your life this week, when you face your trial, when you face your tribulation, when you face your persecution, step back from it and look up and say, Father, I'm going to rejoice. I'm not going to respond the way I normally would respond, and that would be get all bent out of shape, get fearful, get angry, get vindictive, get revenge. Nope. Wait a second. I've seen something that is awesomely powerful in your word. And that is, in the face of this, I'm going to step back and rejoice. I am going to be calmly happy. In Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you, guys.